everyone, it's Stella.
And Tarrant from the Dice Tower.
Thanks for joining us.
Today we'll be teaching you how to play Barcelona, game designed by Danny Garcia and published by Board and Dice.
Let's get to it.
In Barcelona, players are builders in 19th century Spain, competing against each other in the construction of the Eixample district of Barcelona. Players will build up the entire area from nothing, attracting citizens, and building cobblestone footpaths, streets and intersections, trams for transport, the famous La Sagrada Familia, and of course, buildings to house all of the incoming citizens. Players will race to earn the most points and to impress the chief urban planner Ildefons Cerda. And whoever scores the most points by the time one of the citizen tracks is full will be the winner. I'll show you the layout of the board after setup and introduce you to the main components. The main board begins with an empty map of Barcelona and two scoring tracks. These are the Cerda track. You'll go up and down this based on how much you impress Chief Urban Planner Cerda through the game. And the main victory point track around the outside, which you'll move up as you score points. Points gained during the game are represented by this blue icon, and the same icon in red is points scored at the end of the game. The main Barcelona block begins completely empty. Around the outside, you'll have these square building bonus tiles, and these 11 rectangular spaces which represent the game's actions. You can use these tiles to randomize the locations of those actions, but it's not recommended for your first game. At the bottom, you'll find the citizen tracks broken into 3 sections. This serves as a timer for the game, and at the top of each of these sections is a random Cerda scoring tile. These are shared intermediate scoring objectives that all players will compete for. If you're playing at 2 or 3 players, you'll begin the game with some spaces on these tracks blocked out, pre-placing the relevant citizen tokens and effectively shortening the tracks. This would be 3 players, and this would be 2. Here you have the components on and beside the sideboard. There is a draw deck and market of Modernisme tiles. These are endgame scoring objectives which individual players can take and score. In setup, you'll remove the 3 Modernisme tiles which correspond to your 3 Cerda tiles, meaning no one can double up on the same objective. In the middle of the public service stacks, there are 7 in the game. You'll choose 5 at random. And each is a stack of 3 matching tiles which should have the cost 3 10 points tile on top, the 2 6 in the middle, and the 1 3 on the bottom. You won't use the cheapest one in a 2-player game. The bottom represents the footpath where cobblestones will be placed through the game, but nothing is placed here in setup. You'll have stacks of the 4 buildings, the corners, level 1s, level 2s and level 3s. And all the tiles within each single stack are identical. The Sagrada Familia tiles should be split up by level. Each player takes a player board and all of their coloured and starting pieces. From top to bottom, these represent different features in the game. You'll have a small disc marking your Sagrada track, a row for Modernisme projects with multiplier cubes starting on the lower multiplier, your coloured tram piece and a row of cubes representing your passengers, stacks of street tiles. You'll have stacks of 4 and 6 narrow streets and 5 wide streets, 5 intersection tiles, a warehouse row which begins filled with 6 cobblestones, and 1 of each of the game's basic resources, cloth and coins, and 8 building discs in stacks of 2, 2, 2, 1 and 1. Finally, all citizen tiles, except for any which were placed on the citizen tracks and setup, are placed in the cloth bag and shuffled up. Each player draws 2, which they may look at, but may keep secret from the other players. Choose a first player and you're now ready to play. Barcelona is played in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table. A turn is broken up into 4 mandatory steps. Place citizens and optionally take actions. Construct a building, if able. Resolve Cerda scoring, if triggered. And draw new citizens. First is place citizens. You must take the 2 citizens that you have in your possession, stack them in either order, and then place them face up into one of the 25 intersections that does not have any citizens already present. If you place on an intersection with a cost visible, then you must pay that cost to place there. The intersection you choose will correspond to either 2 or 3 of the actions around the outside of the board. And you may now optionally take each of these actions in any order. This placement would entitle me to take these 3 actions. This placement would entitle me to these 2, and so on. I'll take you through exactly what each of these actions does in the next section. Once you're done with actions, you must construct one building into Barcelona if you are able to do so. This can happen if you have the necessary combination of citizens on different intersections surrounding the same block. This can never happen on the first turn, but for example, if the second player placed here, it would be possible to build a level 1 or 2 building in this block, or a corner building here. There are points and bonuses on offer for doing this, which I'll cover later. But critically, the citizens who contributed to the cost of that building are removed from their intersections, gradually freeing up the intersections for future player placements, and moved down onto the matching citizen tracks. The third step is Cerda scoring. This intermediate scoring step happens 3 times during the game and is triggered when a full section of a single citizen track has been filled. All players will score the current Cerda tile, and then there'll be a short reset for the next phase of the game. Your final step is to draw 2 new citizens from the bag at random. We'll now look at the game's 11 actions. This action is very simple, letting you gain 2 coins. This action is also simple. You gain a cloth and 3 victory points. Resources you gain are added to empty slots on your warehouse row. You may discard a coin or cloth at any time to make room for another resource coming in, but cobblestones, while present, block out spaces in your warehouse. This action here allows you to move those cobblestones. At no cost, take the leftmost cobblestone still on your warehouse. This opens a new warehouse space and reveals some endgame victory points, which could be as high as 16 if you clear all of your cobblestones. Now place your cobblestone onto the sideboard, onto any space orthogonally adjacent to at least one previous cobblestone, and gain any benefit that you cover. These benefits can include resources or taking some of the game's other actions, and so we'll see all these icons as we go through the explanation. This action allows you to move up 2 spaces on the Cerda track. That is this track along the right-hand side, so simply move your marker up the relevant number of spaces. Each coloured section of this track is associated with a multiplier, and the higher up this track you move, the greater will be your multiplier when you score these Cerda objectives. Any Cerda point you gain when you're already at the top of this track scores you 2 points. Now we'll look at the 2 actions that involve building streets. This action allows you to build a single wide street, while this one lets you build 2 narrow streets, one after the other. For each street you build, take your topmost street from your leftmost relevant stack. When you empty a stack, you'll gain immediate Cerda points. Now place your street tile onto a street space of the correct width, which does not already have a street tile present. These spaces are for wide streets, these spaces are for narrow streets. Gain any printed bonus that you covered. If I placed here, I would gain 1 coin. Then score points based on the total number of connected street tiles in the same street regardless of ownership. You'll score 1 point per linked tile for a narrow street and 2 for a wide street. This placement would score 1 point for orange. This would also score 1 point for orange, plus the 3-point bonus covered. This would score 3 points for purple. This would score 2 points for purple. This would score 2 points for grey. And this would score 4 points for grey, plus the Cerda bonus. This action allows you to place an intersection. Take the leftmost intersection from your board and pay its cost if it has one. Choose an intersection space on the board which does not already contain an intersection tile. It can contain citizen tiles. If it's a space that contains a coin cost, including one covered by a citizen, you must pay that coin cost. Then place the tile down, under any citizen tiles if necessary, and gain all immediate bonuses on adjacent streets which are not already covered by street tiles. So here, 2 coins and a service step. Once placed, this tile blocks any coin costs for future citizen placements there. From this point forward, any time any player places citizens on your intersection, including yourself, you gain rewards from your intersection track. Each tile removed uncovers one hand icon. And when someone places on your intersection, you gain a number of hand rewards equal to the number of hands at the bottom of the track where your track is uncovered. In other words, here I would gain 1 hand reward. I could gain either a coin or 2 points. Once this tile has been removed, I can gain any 2 different hand rewards among the 3 I've uncovered. Here I could gain 2 different rewards among the 4 uncovered, and so on. The next 2 actions relate to the Modernisma tiles, which are personal endgame scoring objectives. This action with the down arrow allows you to gain a new Modernisma to your player board, while this one with the up arrow allows you to upgrade a Modernisma slot. To gain a Modernisma, take any one of the 4 face-up tiles. Replenish it immediately, shuffling any discards into a new deck if the draw deck runs empty. Then place the tile onto an empty Modernisma slot, paying the cost depicted if applicable. You do not have to fill these from left to right, and you'll find that the spaces on the right have a higher cost but higher multipliers, meaning that you'll score more points each time you complete that objective. Each slot has 2 different multipliers, and when you take the upgrade action, you'll move one of the cubes from the lower box to the upper box, again paying the cost that you cover if applicable. You do not need to already have a tile in the slot to upgrade it. You can upgrade it in anticipation of placing a good tile there later on. These 2 actions work together to give you some potentially powerful endgame scoring bonuses. For example, this tile would be worth 2 points for every wide street tile that I'd placed on the map at game's end. At the moment that has a 1 times multiplier, but if I upgraded that slot, it would have a triple multiplier, meaning I would now score 6 points per street tile instead of 2. This action allows you to construct a public service building. Select the top tile from any one of the public service piles as long as you don't already have a tile of the same type. Pay the depicted cost in coins. This will start at 3 and reduce to 1. Then take the tile and gain its 3 rewards. This will be a number of victory points, 2 steps on the Cerda track, and an immediate action, which is usually a more powerful version of one of the game's basic actions. Then flip the tile over. The final action is the tram action, which is broken up into 2 steps. First, placing or moving your tram, and then optionally placing a passenger. Recall that this row of cubes represents your passengers, and you'll be placing them on the map for bonuses. The first time you take the action, you'll place your tram, taking it from your player board, and placing it onto any valid street space on the board. Trams go on streets, not intersections, and they cannot share a street with another tram or a passenger cube which has previously been placed. They can occupy empty streets or streets with street tiles in any player colour. Each subsequent time you take the action, you must move your tram either 1 or 2 streets. with the added bonus that streets of your colour tile do not count towards this movement limit. You can't backtrack during your movement, and still cannot finish on the space with another tram or passenger. The orange tram has many options here, but some examples include going 1, 2, or simply moving one space to here, or taking advantage of the free movement to go 0, 1, 2. Upon reaching your destination, you may choose to place a passenger on that street. Take the leftmost passenger from your board and pay its cost. This track will reveal some endgame victory points, which can get as high as 23. Then place the passenger in your street space. If you place a passenger on a street tile, then the owner of that street tile gains victory points as if they had just placed that tile. Note that future street tiles can be placed under passengers or trams, but no extra bonus is triggered. Finally, as reward for placing the passenger, check which street the passenger was in, and then you may take the action associated with that street as a bonus action. That covers all 11 actions. There is one more major benefit that you'll find that's not associated with its own action, but that you may claim through other actions, and that is to gain a step on the Sagrada track. Each player has a personal Sagrada track which is 7 steps long, and when you gain a step, advance to the next open space. If you cross over one of these notches, then choose any one available Sagrada tile of the matching level, place it into your player board, gain its rewards, and then flip it over. Once you've reached the end of this track, any further steps gained are wasted. After you're done with actions, you move to the building phase. And during this phase, if it is possible to build at least one building in Barcelona, then you must build exactly one building. There are 4 types of buildings: corner buildings, and then level 1, 2, and 3 square buildings. Once they've been flipped on the board, level 1 buildings look like an L shape, level 2s look like a U shape, and level 3s are a complete square. These 3 full types of buildings must go on full-size blocks, and corner buildings go adjacent to the diagonal road. For the purposes of definitions, this whole area is considered a single block, which accommodates 2 corner buildings. Whether or not you can place a building tile depends upon the topmost citizen on any stacks on intersections adjacent to the building. Any bottommost citizen is completely ignored in this step. For a full-size building, all 4 intersections are adjacent, and for a corner building, only 3 intersections will be adjacent. Corner buildings may only be placed on empty corner spaces, and only if the adjacent intersections contain at least 2 citizens of any type. So this space could take a corner building with these 2 citizens. This space could take a corner building with any 2 of these 3 citizens. This space only has 1 citizen, so can't take a building, and this one already contains a building. Full-size level 1 buildings are similar. They can only go on empty full-size spaces and require any 2 citizens on adjacent intersections. So this space would take these 2 citizens, this space would take these 2 citizens, this one would take any 2 of these 3, while this one has only 1 citizen, so it would not be allowed. A level 2 building requires 2 citizens, and at least one of them must be a pink middle-class citizen. A level 2 building can be placed on an empty space or on top of a level 1 building. So this space does not have the right citizen mix, nor does this space, with there being no pinks adjacent to them. But I could build the level 2 building here at the cost of these 2, here at the cost of this pink and either of these 2, or overbuilding here at the cost of these 2. Finally, a level 3 building is the most difficult to construct. It requires 3 citizens, at least one of which is a blue upper class citizen, and these may go on empty spaces or can overbuild a level 1 or level 2 building. Right now, the only legal place for one of these would be in this space at the cost of all 3 citizens. Do note that I've set up this example for the teach. It's going to be very rare for you to have that many different options when it comes to your build phase. So let's say, for example, I've chosen to construct this level 3 building here. Place the tile, and if it is the very first building constructed in that row, flip over this bonus tile and score 5 points. Pay the building's citizen cost by taking the matching citizens off the tops of their stacks and filling in the citizen tracks from left to right. You now immediately score the lowest visible number of victory points across the 3 tracks. So here it's 2. Gain all rewards on the right of the tile. Here 2 La Sagrada points, 7 victory points, and going down 2 steps on the Cerda track. If there are still any building markers on your player board, take one from the leftmost stack, and if you empty a stack, you'll gain some Cerda points. Finally, flip over the building tile and then place your building marker on top. If you chose to take an overbuilding action, then you'll place the new building tile on top of the old building tile, but under any building marker already present. You'll then place your own building marker on top. This signifies that blue built the lowest part of this structure and orange built the upper part. In most cases, that will be the end of your turn. Simply draw 2 more citizen tiles from the bag, and as in setup, you may look at them, but keep them hidden from all other players. However, if during your building phase, any one of the 3 citizen tracks either filled up or went over the end of its current section, then you'll pause the game and all players will resolve the current Cerda scoring objective. All players score what's printed here. This, for example, would be 2 points for each cobblestone they've placed, and then multiply that based on their position on the Cerda track. Each set of background colours represents a specific multiplier. So here purple would multiply by 4, grey by 1, and blue by 0. Then move all players who are above the starting position back to the starting position, leaving anyone below where they are. Flip over the Cerda objective and refresh the market of Modernismo tiles. The game end is triggered once the 3rd Cerda objective has been scored. On this occasion, do not reset the Cerda track. Continue playing until all players have had the same number of turns, and then proceed to final scoring. All of your additional endgame points will come from the red points icons on your player board. Evaluate your Modernismo tiles based on the objective and any upgraded multipliers. Score the highest visible number of points on your passenger track, and the highest visible points on your cobblestones. The player with the highest score wins. If tied, victory goes to the highest position on the Cerda track. If still tied, most advanced on the Sagrada track. If still tied, whoever's placed the most building markers onto the board, and if still tied, victory is shared. And that's how to play Barcelona.
Thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us. Every single view, every time you like the video, and let us know if you have any questions and comments, and see you next time.